computer. Okay, so from the top. So Jared McDonald here from Project Barbecue. This is Project Barbecue. So welcome to Project Barbecue, Brendan. I just wanted to get you on the show because one, I wanted to create a show, but two, I wanted to actually pick your brains. We often spend hours on the phone talking about barbecue, and I always thought someone might benefit from some of our conversations. So,
yeah.
Welcome to the first episode. I hope to get a few other people on here. I know a few power players in the barbecue scene. So it's always nice to have a conversation with people about their thoughts around barbecue. And anyway, so we'll just see where it takes. This is completely unscripted. And hopefully we are during the COVID lockdown. So I do have my children in the background, and hopefully they don't just come and annoy us. But maybe, Brendan, you could start off by just telling us maybe introduce your team, and then if you could maybe start way back wherever it started for you.
Well, I suppose it's better to start at the beginning. I suppose our gas barbecue was on its way out, and I'd seen this page on Facebook, the NZ Pitmasters. So that probably would have been towards the end of 2016. And
so this was pre-Meatstock days, wasn't it?
This was, yeah, pre-Meatstock days for sure. And people were cooking on charcoal, just like, Dad did back in the 80s, I suppose.
Yeah.
And I started mucking around with the shell of our gas barbecue with some little stainless steel smoking boxes from Mega 10 with the wood chips and
those are the little ones that press together with all the holes in them.
Yes, yep.
Right.
Yep. So they were starting to burn a bit quick, so I wanted sort of something that burned a bit longer. So we ended up putting some Kingsford briquettes in them. So that sort of burnt a bit longer and sort of got a bit of flavour in the meat in that. So you were sort of getting, okay results with that, I suppose. And then,
but you were still cooking on the gas? Was the gas the heat source, or was the
gas was still going.
So this was more just enhancing the flavour by using a bit of smoke?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, right.
Sure. And then one of the one-day deals popped up on the old email, and it was one of these cheap offset smokers with the little wood box to the side and, the barrel-type main chamber. So
sort of your $99 thing or $100 thing, $150,
$160 or something like that.
Yeah. Right.
So we decided to get one of those and give it a bit of a go. And
now, when you say we, are we talking you and Junior, or?
No, me, I should say. Me, I always try and sort of rope
yeah,
a few
you
people
mean
in.
we as in you and your posse, like your family and people who showed any kind of interest whatsoever?
Yeah. So we saw some carnuka and bits of apricot and bits and pieces. And, I tell you what, cooking those briskets for 14 hours in the wind on something that was probably the thickness of, I don't know. Yeah, it was probably a couple of layers of tinfoil. It was, it was a real struggle, but the results we were getting probably weren't that flash, but to us, they just, tasted amazing.
Mind blowing.
So, so we started.
Now, can I just pause the story there, Brendan, because you talked about your dad. I want to just talk about your dad. Now, did you have a dad that cooked on charcoal, or was this just sort of like?
Yeah, those little, I don't know what they would have been, 20-inch. Probably
mass
like port
jobby that kind of lifted up and down.
Yeah, the round hot plate type thing, and it had the little windbreak around the back, the aluminium ones.
It's funny because that's my earliest memory of my dad's barbecue was actually that exact same barbecue. So it must have been all that was available like back in the 80s, right? Because this would have been the 80s to me as well.
I think so, but I distinctly remember the gas coming in, and then it was out with that and in with the gas. So it was obviously just a convenience thing for sure. Yeah.
Sorry, continue with you're cooking these briskets early days. They probably weren't that great by today's standards, but they were probably the best thing you'd ever tasted back in those days.
Oh, for sure. And we were doing, chicken and, pork loin and bits and pieces like that too. So, so I think Dion from Rosie's Burgers was probably one of the first. I put a question up and he answered straight back to me about a pork loin I was doing. So I think Dion was probably one of my first points of contact with the community.
Now, was this
at that stage?
How many people would have been on the Facebook group back then? Because that was
I was thinking about that this morning when you said about this afternoon, and I reckon there would have been about 5,500 people.
Yeah, I remember being like I don't know, 2,500, 3,000. I mean,
yeah.
I didn't even use Facebook at that point. The only reason I started using Facebook was for the group, access to the group.
Oh, yeah. So we started started getting some good results with that, and sort of wanted to upgrade. And I thought, well, yeah, there must be must be somebody in New Zealand making these pits. So came across.
Were we making them at that point?
Came across a company in Hamilton called Octopit. You might
Yeah,
have heard
right.
of them. And I think that's when I started to hassle you on Messenger a bit. And I think it took a few messengers for you to finally say, oh, well, bugger it, we've got something out the back for this guy.
Yeah, well, it's funny because we had made the prototype, like when I'd probably been into barbecue for at least a number of years at that point. But we had been banging our head against the wall trying to find the right barbecue to cook commercially. And then in the end, I was just talking to a business partner and saying, look, can we just make one? And naturally, when you start out, you don't make the big one. You make a smallish one, and you try and get it right on that, and then you scale it up. But yeah, at the time, we had sort of banged our head against the wall of rolled pipe and rolled tube, and just with the challenges of that and the plant and equipment that my buddy had available, we just decided to fold something up in an octagon. Just seemed like the most sensible shape to use. So, and then naturally you try and name the product Octopit, blah blah blah. Anyway, I remember. So you actually got, and you know this, but just for the punters at home, Brendan actually was the first Octopit customer because he bought the first prototype barbecue. Well, yeah, it was the first fully completed prototype barbecue.
Mm. And so I remember you guys had a Hamilton Pitmasters gathering towards was it the beginning of 2017?
Yeah, I believe we had done Meatstock at that point.
No, it was before Meatstock.
Was it before Meatstock? Okay,
it was
maybe
before
it was.
Meatstock. Yeah,
there you go.
It was either the end of 2016 or beginning of 2017.
Okay,
and Dazza was there doing his bread.
That's right.
I think you were doing brisket, and I can't remember who was down
well,
the other
Sefton
end.
and Jim were down giving us a hand.
Sefton and Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good day. We probably had 50 to 100 people show up. We didn't charge anything. We just got together. We actually stayed on site out there to cook the brisket. That was back in the days where you put it on at 6 p.m. and it was ready by 7 the next day.
So that was the first time that I met all you guys. Yeah, Sefton and Jim Tom and Dazza and all that. So, and then I think the next time I caught up with you guys was at Meatstock 17, which would have been February maybe. And we
must have been.
Yeah, we weren't even looking at competing at that stage, but yeah, going up to Meatstock 2017, that sort of blew us away a bit. Me and Wendy went up to have a look at that, and that just blew us away. Tasting.
And you never competed at the first Meatstock, right?
Oh, it wasn't even on the radar. No,
right.
Wasn't interested. Yeah.
Well, I remember seeing the advertising, and I was just like, well, yeah, I suppose. And I thought it was going to be me and 7 other people. But actually turned out to be probably 30-something teams. And I can't believe how many closet pitmasters there were hiding away in New Zealand.
Yeah, it was quite mind-blowing. I even remember somebody doing like a whole hog there. They had
That's right. They were cooking out the back for a feed. Yeah.
They were over by Dazza. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah. But it was good sort of putting, faces to the names of the guys that were starting to put up posts on the Facebook page at that time too. I think Dazza was pretty active at that stage, and I think Noel was always there. So,
when we competed at Meatstock, the guys behind us was the smoking joint. They were directly behind us. Holes and Carl and so on, and then directly next to us was Matt and Noel and Tracy. So that was the first direction. Yeah. And I believe, and we'll have to get them on the show, but back in those days they cooked on ceramic eggs, and they had like 3 or 4 eggs.
Yeah.
So that was where they sort of cut their teeth before they got the Pro Q stretch.
Yeah. I think the biggest memory or the highlight of that Meatstock 17 was seeing that massive Octopit that you built for ants.
Oh, ants, yeah.
And they had to crane it down, so from fireworks and the viaduct into the ASB there. So I think that was one of the highlights that everybody wanted to pop down and see this massive Octopit because it was pretty large.
So that's now at Cole's Barbecue. So
he
picked that up, and it seems like he's doing really well with it.
Got that. Yeah. Yeah.
So when you went to Meatstock, you obviously drove home from there and just thought, wow, this is amazing, blah, blah, blah. So where to from there? Like, where was your first comp? Because you're really known for your competitive barbecue.
Yeah, well, we were just mucking around on the octo pit, just cooking food for the family and the neighbours and that. So, and then the JD's series started up, and I think that was the first one was in August, I think at QMU, middle of August,
That's right.
and I think you put a call out on the Octobro page about some fella from Aussie coming over.
Oh, that's right.
And he wanted a couple of teammates.
That's right. I forgot
So
that's where it all started.
Yeah, because we sort of thought, well, catering might be a line that we wanted to go. So if we sort of, see how these guys actually cook it properly, we might sort of get a bit of a line on the catering down the track. So yeah, I think I chucked my name on the hat there, and you pulled me and Shane's out to give Trevor a hand at QMU.
Look, I'm pretty sure it was rigged.
Was it?
But
really? Does that happen?
No, I remember Trev saying, "Look, who can I cook with? I just need someone to help out, whatever." And Shane had bought an octo pit, and so had you. So we'd obviously pulled all the people out of the octo pit circle. And Adrian just wanted to get into it. He was cooking on. He was actually the first. He was the first octo pit customer. They had bought the octo pit for Good George.
Good George,
and you were the first to buy like the backyard model. So there you go.
Yeah. So yeah, that weekend was a complete eye opener.
It was like a baptism of fire.
Scale,
I mean, remember cooking in the mud and
I think we were pretty well off on the tar seal, but I mean, geez, Andy Rose, that's when that gazebo got absolutely annihilated, and seeing Dion and Tony and Derek, they were like ankle deep in mud, and they were just. Oh, it was just ridiculous. They had these like bits of tarps up against their pergola, just keeping the rain out, and that was
definitely one of the hardest.
Mind blowing.
I think that is the hardest cook-off I've ever done. It was just the elements were against us, and it was just it was tough. It was really tough. I believe Rum and Q ended up winning that one.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, we got like 14th or something like that. We were well down the standings, so we were sort of surprised about that. But it was a bit of a, take it on the chin and get on with the next one.
Yeah, I believe Trev blamed the QMU judges, which I think it hasn't changed much. He still blames them for everything.
And I think we went back, and I think the next one was at Hamilton, wasn't it? Second one was at Hamilton. Inside there in the big...
Yeah, I suspect it was actually.
Hamilton?
Yeah, I think it was the second one was in the Hamilton Pavilion there.
So
we were jammed in the corner.
Yes, and I think we like to think we were a bit more prepared at that stage, knew what we were getting in for. And I think we got done in that one too. We were way down as well too. So it was like, okay, what's going on here? So, but surprising because they had this guy from Aussie come over, and we were expecting to not clean up, but that was the way it goes. And I think the next one after Hamilton was Napier.
Yeah,
and down
it was out the back of it was out the back of that showground or whatever.
Yes, yeah. So that was when I was that was my first comp cooking by myself, and then so Trev was cooking by himself, and he had Glenn. Giving him a hand, and I had a mate giving me a hand. So
now,
we're at the back
Glenn,
of there.
Is this Glenn from Christchurch or?
From Wellington.
Bottoms
right.
Up.
Glenn from Bottoms Up.
Bottoms Up. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Chef Glenn. No.
Chef Glenn. He knows the chef.
Yeah. I wonder where he is these days.
Got a bunch of dudes. He's down in Wellington. Yep.
All right.
So I thought, right, this is my chance. Break away from Trev. Show this.
I'm going to show everybody what I got.
We can do. This is it. We got it. And I think Trev came last and I came second to last.
This is great, eh? I remember that. I don't remember where we came, but I wasn't impressed. But
the weather was crap there too.
Yeah, it was crap weather. You guys slept in that lane, but I remember we cooked flappers, wing flappers for the first time, and we must have overbrined them because they were so salty you couldn't eat them. So then what we did is we just covered them with sweet to try and balance it out. Just so sweet and sickly, the sauce. And something went right because I think we come third with the wings, but come bombed and everything else. So it's been a real battle uphill.
And that was when Wayne and John's those kegs caught on fire.
That's right.
They had that fire in the
had the grease fire in the kegs, and then managed to come first.
Yeah, they won with their beef.
It was good. There was that team that showed up with a big pit on a trailer too, and they cooked on the trailer the whole weekend. I don't remember who that was.
Was that?
Nah. They just had a big some big behemoth of an offset on a trailer, but they couldn't lift it off, so they just kept it on the trailer the whole weekend.
Oh, I can't remember that one. Okay.
Yeah. But them was good days, you know. I don't remember every comp, but walking down memory lane with you, it started to flood back some memories.
Yeah.
So you've always just competed. I mean, I think that whole season you competed with Trev for the most part, right?
Yeah. There was just Trev, me and Shane. So Shane never came down to Napier, and then we were down in Wellington after that. So Trev didn't come over for that, so I just went down to Wellington by myself, and we no better there. So we were well down the bottom there too. So
where did you finish up in that first season with whatever capacity? Were they first round of Jack Daniels, the one that
first round of Jack Daniels? I think the last. So after that had happened, I think we went back up to Hamilton again because there was a South Island round cancelled. So we were wondering, well, what's 4 or 5 comps down, what's going on? So I ended up buying a whole heap of injections and rubs from the States. So I got a bit confused with the conversion rate there, and ended up being like double what I thought it was going to be. So so that was a bit of a shock to the system. But over that summer, we were just trialing different recipes. We got like boxes of beef ribs from First Light. We were just cutting them into 2s, doing injection A.
Now, was this at your house or was this with Trevor?
Yeah, this is my place.
Yeah.
And was just giving feedback to Trevor on the phone and bits and pieces and that. So over that summer, we sort of nailed down the combinations that we thought were good, and QMU was coming up. The first QMU, the Hot Rod Show.
Yeah, right.
And Trev, I don't think he was too. I think he was interested to a point about what we were using, but he just said to me and Shane, "You guys,
I think he wrote himself off that weekend.
We'll use it all." Oh, I don't think it was too bad. I think he did a few bits and pieces, but so we used all those flavors and all that, and we ended up getting reverse grand champions. So that was
reverse grand champion. Now, for those who just picked that up, he didn't say reserve grand champion. He said reverse grand champion. So go ahead and explain what you mean when you say reverse grand champion.
Well, the prize giving was all done and dusted, and Aussie Pit Boys were crowned grand champions, and
I think Trev was crying.
Reverse. Yeah, and we were all heading out to dinner that night with Clinton and Shane for a bit of a celebration dinner, and Adam Roberts got on the phone to Trev and was just watching his face drop further down. But I mean that that's the way it goes, and you just got to take it on the chin. But I mean we were stoked to sort of have a massive form reversal, and it was then we knew that we were on the right track. And then Meatstock was up next. And so I was cooking by myself and Trev was cooking by himself.
Now, did you finish that first season, that Jack Daniels season? You had already cooked by yourself a few times. You had cooked with Shane and Trev as well, but you'd sort of, at that point, you'd said, look, I'm going to start cooking as the Smoking Meathouse, or was there a falling out? Because I'd love to know the juice on that.
No. It was always... It was sort of always on the cards. I mean, I had the label up and going, and it was always one of those things. Trev was just over here to share his knowledge, and get everybody up and going. And then he was going to, obviously, stick back to Aussie, and we were going to carry on our merry way.
So just in terms of cooking with Trev, when was the last time you cooked with Trev?
Probably as
what I mean is as a legitimate team. Was it Meatstock Melbourne or?
No, it would have been the Invitational 2018 in Sydney when you guys.
And now was that the one over at the park that was the one Black Bear put on at the Moore Park? Yep. Yeah, that was a good comp.
Park. Yep.
Yeah,
that was good.
I really enjoyed that one.
So that would have been the last time there, and we got 4th there.
Yeah, right.
So that was that was good. But yeah, I mean, even just cooking, next to him now, I mean, I've got, a bit of his gear with me, so we're always set up next to each other, and it's just like you're cooking, as a team anyway. So it's just, it's a bit of, just get a bit of a groove on and a bit of a flow on and that. So it's, I'm sort of doing one thing and he's doing the same thing. So I think, it's sort of, it's weird. We sort of pretty much work out of one site, two guys sort of running two teams. So it's
right. Well, that's a nice segue to get into the current setup that you're running, in conjunction with Trev at comps and whatever. I just need to take a brief intermission right here. I need to get a little refill on a couple of things, and I need to check. I've got a piece of beef hanging right now outside above the barbecue, so I just want to give it a quick check. We'll just go get a refill, and I'll give everyone at home a chance to take a toilet break. And we'll put an ad by our sponsor in here somewhere, Heat Beads or something. We'll give you a pause here for a sec, Brendan. Right, so we're just back here with Brendan Reisima from the Smoking Meathouse. This is, I guess, part 2. Maybe we'll split it on YouTube or something. But you were just talking about the first season of competing with barbecue, and we're just basically getting into the current situation. You basically learnt from Trev Dawson from the Aussie Pit Boys. It was back then, or I guess it still is that. And you're cooking with Shane Hartstone, who's currently cooking with a much more better team, and he's doing well. And so if you can just, I wanted to ask you a couple of questions. So certainly during that first year of competing with Trev, I mean, there must have been some times when it was very frustrating where you're doing your best and coming last. I mean, I don't think I've ever come dead last at a comp. I've come pretty close to it. But where do I mean, it must have been gut-wrenching having to, eat that humble pie in the first season. Oh, I've lost your video.
There we go. Yeah,
sorry about that.
Sorry. It was, but I mean, it just makes you sort of strive to do better and find out, where you're going wrong. You get your scores back. You look at everything there and you're trying to decipher what went wrong. But yeah, I think ultimately, the injection was the main issue there. So we'd sort of done a lot of homework on that.
So stay tuned in, guys. If you want to find out what Brendan's using in his current injection, go ahead and give us a thumbs up and a subscribe and ring the bell. We might be able to force it out of him at some point, but I doubt.
So ultimately, that was the main factor. So as soon as we started,
okay. So break this down for me. So I mean, did you just happen to start with injection, or did you really feel like? I mean, because what I've learned about injections, and I believe we've spent many hours on the phone talking about injections, is that they have an impact in 3 ways, if you like. First, they have an impact on flavour. Second, they have an impact on moisture retention. And then third, they have an impact on texture, the texture of the protein that will actually affect the... So, I mean, what made you have a look at injections as being the sort of culprit in your recipe? Or, I mean, have you rebuilt your whole recipe, surely?
Well, I think initially it was just that flavour, boost in in the judge's mouth, just getting that, everything's just there for that one bite. And I think injection is the key. If you're going to start somewhere, start with the injection. Rubs and sauces and that. I think if you're all pretty much down the middle of the road there, I think they're much of a muchness.
You know what? I think any commercial rub, it tastes the same once it's cooked as the next.
That's what pretty much we sort of came to. There is one rub there that we think's pretty special, right. And we don't know anybody else that's sort of using that. So.
Tell us what it is.
We're keeping that one. It's got a pretty unique sort of a flavour. So,
that's interesting that you say that. So, really well. Are you saying that it's quite a distinct profile? I mean, it's quite recognisable once you've tasted it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Because it's interesting you say that because the More Better team, we had a lot of problems with our beef for a long time, and you can go ahead and go back and check our scores on beef. We struggled with beef for years and years, just trying to get the profile right. And then all of a sudden, boom, hello, here we are. We come right and we're doing all right with it. And one of the things that we do with our beef is we use a very distinct rub for our beef. Like I think everybody has SPG in their beef, But we also put a very unusual rub onto our beef as a sort of like a second layer. And what that does is it just gives us a hint of distinction, because I think when you're judging beef, it all tastes the damn same, and anything that can just leave them going, oh, that's good, I like that, but what is that? I think that probably helps you a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can find something, keep it simple. We tried to just make, everything just amplify the flavour of the meat. So we just try to make the beef beefier, the chicken chickenier, the pork porkier. We started off that, and it's just been slowly tweaked, but the fundamentals are the same there. But we're always sort of trying new things. I mean, we're lucky enough to be sponsored now by Heavenly Hell. I mean, Michael's always coming out with new flavours, and he's always tweaking things, and his flavours have just got a level of complexity there that are pretty unique.
So, I mean, what put you onto Heavenly Hell sauces? Because I know you do rep them pretty hard. I'm convinced you don't use any of his rubs in your actual cooking, but let's say for argument's sake you did. What did you say makes them special? Like what got you onto them?
Well, yeah, Trev brought them over. I mean, Trev and Michael sort of worked together, sort of developing flavours, for the Heavenly Hell range. And, then Michael just takes it to a next level every time he brings out a new rub or a combination. They've just got that whole level of, sweet, salty balance, with the Rock and Roll Roosters, a classic. I mean, that's just, that's the base for, for our pork and chicken. It's just got a really complexity of flavours there.
It's funny because I've known you've been using those rubs for a long time, because you're pretty open about the fact that you use them. Like I said, even though no one actually believes you do. But I've actually never tried them. The only one I've tried is the Lamb Almighty sauce, as you know, because as you know, we put a little bit of that in with our lamb. Yeah, we take about a tablespoon of that. And, they're pretty hard to get in New Zealand, the Heavenly Hells. So you'd be the only one I know that uses them. And we just come and get a tablespoon of those and bludge those off you, and it seems to work well in our lamb.
Yeah, I mean, Matt from Barbecue Supplies NZ, he's always stocked them.
Okay.
And
cool.
Ken from Barbecue Boy up in Bay of Islands, he's doing them too.
Okay, it could just be that I've never gone looking for them, but that's cool.
Yeah. Or maybe you just come to me when you need them at comps.
Yeah,
anyway,
maybe it's just a lot cheaper and easier to go, hey, Brendan, can I have some Heavenly Hell?
So you're just getting back to that 2018 was a bit of a year for us. I mean, that first solo competition at Meatstock, coming third there, winning lamb and getting third.
So
that was after the
that was last year, was it?
Yes, yeah.
So not the one where we just had the Jack Daniel's Spectacular, but the one before that.
The one before
now, was that the one Trev
yeah.
had some problems with his rubs going missing that he likes?
Someone flogged him. Yeah.
Now, did you compete with Trev or against Trev or?
No, against Trev. So he was Aussie Pit Boys over by Moorpork there, and we were just in the pit yard there. So I learnt the biggest lesson in probably competition barbecue that weekend, and that's pre-trim all your meat before you get to competition. So I take it on my meat there, and it pretty much took me all Saturday to trim it up, and it was just an absolute mission. So
a lot of people ask us. I think a lot of people are curious about our journey in the More Better team, because we seem to have gone from strength to strength. And one of the things, people ask, oh, what are you using and all this crap? But, it's not one thing. It's not one thing on a journey. It's not one injection. If I just use Brendan's injection now, I'm going to do well. What it is it's a culmination of a number of things, right? And for us, one of the things that we've always been particularly weak on was organisation. I remember we showed up to the first Meatstock, which would have been 2016. Was it 2016? And Jay rings us Saturday morning and says, are you guys still competing? Because we were that late. And we ended up, we're on our way. But, we did all our trimming up there and everything. And one of the things that's definitely made a huge difference from us in terms of the way that we're currently competing is that we've taken a little bit of learning from people like you and Matt Flanagan, and just do a bit more front loading so that when you come up to do the cook and you have a problem, it doesn't compound it because you've got 1,000 other things you got to do. And I'm the king of that, obviously. And one little road bump in our cooks, used to just be crippling. But I remember at QMU QMU was the last time we won grand champion at QMU. I mean, we got our times totally mixed up on chicken and ended up cooking it in 35 minutes. And we wouldn't have been able to do that if we were still trying to prep our chicken and all that kind of thing. You can deal with the catastrophe because you've got everything else in order.
But I mean, that's one thing that you've done. You've sort of taken your time to sort of, learn from the best, traveled the world, cooking with Smokeface grillers, Tuffy, those guys, and sort of learning what it takes to, cook winning barbecue. And that's one thing you've done. And soon as you almost completed that little journey, was it halfway through last year, and came out and you almost cleaned up in Napier.
Yeah, there was a few, I think there's a few moments where you cook, I think what I definitely echo that. To become really good, you have to learn from really good cooks. Now, whether that's on their team or whether that's on their YouTube channel or whether that's something like this where you're just talking to the best cooks in the country or in the league, there's not one, and I can't stress this enough, there is not one recipe to rule them all.
No,
what it is it's a combination of a lot of small learning instances that add up to be something great. And for you, you've done that same journey. You've started off at the back and you've learned step by step what it takes to actually do extremely well. And, there's no bigger stage than Meatstock Auckland in this country, and that was you up there with the family. The culmination of a lot of hard work, a lot of money. And, you finally managed to pull it all together into a single cook.
Yeah. I mean, that was one comp. I was just sort of telling myself not to stuff anything up. How you always get that competition and something always lets you down. And it was just that concentration of just, getting, I wasn't sort of aiming to, win with chicken, but I just want to do well with chicken. And I just wanted to do well with the pork ribs, do well with the pork. It was a weird sort of a mindset just to, not bugger everything up, but like cook it well, but just don't stuff it up.
Don't stuff it up.
It's quite it was a bit of a weird one, but I mean it was really unusual.
It's a special moment where you managed to just get everything right for once.
Well, yeah, exactly, and that was just that whole thing, just keeping an eye on everything. And I mean that's one thing Trev said too. We're just cooking one brisket. We're just cooking 2 racks of pork ribs. We're just doing 2 pork collars. We're not cooking a whole heap of meat and trying to look after everything. And the meat that we are cooking, we know that there's no second chances, so it's got to be done right.
Well, this brings us back. I think this brings us to another philosophical barbecue direction. And that's where, I mean, you and Trev, and I've cooked next to you guys many times. Love cooking next to you too. And one of the things that blows me away, and I think it's worth mentioning, is that you guys cook in your own team, meaning it's just you. And it's just him. And, like at Meatstock, we had 4 in our team, 4 very competent cooks. And we're doing, we cook slightly more meat than you, but your sort of philosophy seems to be, and you can confirm this, that just because there's only one of me, what I'd have to do is cut it back to its most simplest form and focus on the things that matter. As opposed to cooking, I've cooked with Smokeface. I mean, they cook enough to cater for half of Auckland by the time they're finished cooking,
Yeah. But it just takes that level of concentration. You're really looking after everything. You've got that, every 15 minutes, you're doing something. You've got your plan on your whiteboard. That's got to be done. Everything's done to the last, quarter of an hour. You're constantly sort of looking and doing something. I mean, I would say you're on the go the whole time, but there's always sort of, something to do. There is a lot of, planning you can sort of do to sort of cut that time, down a bit.
I mean, you'd surely be going to a comp with all your meat trimmed, all of your rubs mixed, all of your sauces done, all of your bits and pieces, right? You're not going there and doing any work that you can't do off site.
No, absolutely not. No.
And let's talk about Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, it's just all about that. Just working out a plan for your chicken. You just got to get it down to that. You've got to know every minute of that. Cooking window. What's happening with that. Particular protein.
Yeah, it's funny because we used to be very detailed, like cooking with Tuffy. His is written down every 10 minutes. So you're, put wood on the fire sort of thing. And then there's me where I've never sort of bothered with it. And then I started to really do it after cooking with Tuffy, and then that ended up being distracting. And actually my whole strategy now of cooking is to just go next to you. And then when you put your chicken on, I'll just put mine on. And when you put your lamb on, we put ours on. So as we cook very similar styles and very similar temperatures. So that's kind of worked well for us just to, just what are the people next to you doing? I mean, obviously we could work out what time to put it on, but I just feel like, takes the pressure off a bit, to be honest.
Yeah, we're just using the same cuts of meat the whole time too now. It just makes it so much easier. We're not sort of, mucking around between different cuts of meat. And we're just, I'm just sticking to the cupcake, thighs, because I know if I can, if you go to Aussie and the thighs quite aren't big enough, you can still smash them out. You're not sort of having to, scramble for meat. So.
Yeah, look, this is one of the big lessons for me for the guys at home or who might be watching this. I think, like for us, we both compete internationally, and the ability to source your rubs, your sauces, your barbecue fuel, your barbecue appliance, your chicken thighs, or whatever it is, it may not play into much when you're doing your first comp in Wellington. But if you compete anywhere outside of New Zealand, you have to have consistency in everything that you're doing. So you can't rely on picking up some special honey from old mate up the road to put in your rub or to put in your sauce. You need to be able to use what's available. So for us, our recipes, if we can't use them in the US or Aussie, then we change it so that we can, right?
Yeah.
I think one of the only things that we, even at the Royal, we cooked on heat beads. They actually shipped heat beads over to the Royal, so it would be cooking on the same fuel. Well, I know we were looking at cooking in the Cairns comp later this year. I don't know what's happening with it, but we were going to, we're going to cook on an octopit there that's up in Australia that Trev's got. We're having it shipped up there so that we're cooking on the same appliance that we always cook on. And so there's a little tip for the guys at home who are looking at getting into barbecue in a big way, or if you've been cooking for a while and want to up your game, it's all about consistency across the board. You don't want some special margarine that you can only get in New Zealand. And if you do have it as a core part of your recipe, you have to take it with you, which may not always be possible. Like I know honey, you can't bring honey into New Zealand. I know we can't take Wagyu beef to Australia. So we tend to use an Australian product because we know we can take that around the world to anywhere except Australia, right? Even though I have known people who have re-imported Wagyu beef back into Australia, but that's not normal. Looking at you, by the way.
Well, it's still there. Still there. We never got to use it in Melbourne, so yeah.
Oh yeah, that's right. We did too. Got canned. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. That's
right. Well, that's cool. So
well, I mean, we've been lucky with a lot. I mean, our sponsors are Australian and American, based too. So, I mean, we're pretty lucky with Char Griller. I mean, they just sort of turn up with a truck with all our gear on it, dump it off, and pick it back up on the Monday morning. And I mean, my brother-in-law lives in Melbourne. He's got a workshop down in Carrum Downs, so we're pretty lucky having Melbourne's only octo pit there too. So
don't tell Jai that.
So yeah, I mean, sort of when you are sort of looking at sponsors, if you sort of get that far, it's nice to have that assistance when you go to another country too. That always helps.
Yeah, for sure. Now, just going back to that little thing we mentioned, like we shipped an octopit back out of 4 over to Brendan, your brother-in-law, Brendan, over in Melbourne, and he keeps it over there. I have noticed, and I'm not butthurt or anything about it, but I've noticed you're going more towards drums as we. Well, I mean, we've started using the Gateway drum in our cook. We're still currently cooking on an octopit. I'm just for those guys who don't know. I own the business Octopit. I do have business partners, but I'm the primary person responsible for it. That's how I got to know a lot of these guys. But I noticed that you're cooking more on drums right now. Can you just maybe walk us through the evolution? You've gone from an offset to now direct cooking on drums. Is it just convenience? Is there some secret sauce there?
Yeah, well, we were on the Octo Pit XL, and we're running the Chargarilla Acorns as well. We sort of found, especially cooking by yourself, remembering to put wood on the fire, every half an hour. It was just one of those time-consuming things we just wanted to eliminate, and we're sort of looking over 2019, a bit of a disappointing season it was mainly just the consistencies of the cooks, especially when it got windy. There's nothing worse than trying to manhandle an offset when it's windy or it's raining. The temps are just up and down all over the place. And we found with the Chargarilla Acorns, they were, the temp was just sitting at 300 all day, no matter what the weather. But the heat in the Chargarilla Acorn is quite a moist heat. And it was perfect for lamb, pork, and chicken. We do that in the Acorns, and we just needed something with a drier sort of a heat. So Christchurch last year went down for the comp down there that Glenn organised, and I gave a team down there, Rana and the boys, a hand, Labour Love Barbecue, and they were just cooking on three 44-gallon drums that they made up, UDS drums. And what convinced me that drums were the go is I turned up at 6:30 on that morning, expecting the beef and the pork to be on, and the pork wasn't on yet. And so we pretty much rubbed it. It had been injected the night before. We pretty much rubbed it, and we put it on this drum at 350, and we had it wrapped in an hour and a half, and we had it cooked in about 4 hours.
Yeah, right.
And when we pulled it, it was probably the best pork I've ever tasted in my life. And we handed it in, and we won that day with it, and that pretty much converted me to drums.
Now, do you put that down to hot and fast cooking over direct heat, or
no? I think
you just get lucky, or
I don't know. The heat was pretty consistent as well, so it's sort of like I don't know how the physics work inside the drum or anything, but yeah, it's just a little bit more of a drier heat that I think brisket and ribs need, as opposed to putting them in an acorn. There's horses for courses, obviously. So
what's the difference with the acorn? Is just the water pan in it?
No, there's a deflector stone in it. It just is because it's
can't you just take all that out?
No, because you haven't got that much gap.
So you're saying with the drum where you've got quite
a big gap between the coals and the grill. So we added another acorn. So we're cooking on 2 drums and 2 acorns, and we'll use the acorn junior. So the drums do one thing and the acorns do another, and it just gives us a more consistent cook. So this year was just about having a bit of fun this year, and just trying a few new things, because QMU this year was the first comp we did with the drums, and it was only my second cook on them, and we ended up getting third at QMU, so that was pretty good. And
it's funny though. I tend to overanalyze everything, but teams, we put it down. This goes back to what I was saying earlier, is we put it down to one thing. It's my special cinnamon and my rub or whatever. And what I've found is it's not an appliance, it's not a rub, and it's not any single ingredient. It's a culmination of a lot of. But it's interesting that you put it down to just the different humidity of the heat. So that's cool. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say you're right. It's just if it works for you, then you do it, right. And I know the boys, the Smokeface boys, they use the Myron Mixon, which has a massive water pan in it that gets continually filled up as they're cooking it. And, frack, you open the thing, it's like a steamer, so they like a more humid one. But I have found with us, when we use water pans in our offset, it can wash the rub off a bit. So we do limit the amount of humidity we put in ours at the start. I don't know, it's horses for courses, eh? It's different.
It is. So we've sort of gone from using a $5,500 offset last year to we've probably got one of the cheapest rigs on the circuit at the moment,
Hey, well, one thing for me is I never get sick
smokers
of
and a couple of
I never get
Aprils.
sick of lifting the drum off the trailer versus the octo pit. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, being by yourself too, you always sort of needed a hand to push it back on. But I mean, it's every pit's got a particular personality and a purpose, and then you've just got to find out, what's right for you. How I cook a brisket or how I cook ribs, might not be how somebody else likes it. So we've sort of always gone to what the end result, how I want the end result to be, and sort of work back from that. So if I want the chicken to do, taste something or do something, I'll always just go back right down the steps and how to achieve that result. So it's always a process. I mean, how I cook this weekend will be different how I cook 2 weekends time.
Oh, look, I mean, there's
It's
always
always
tweaks.
changing. There's no
Always tweaks. Yeah, you're always
mm.
tweaking what you're doing. I mean, I just cooked. I cooked at the Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo in February, just right before the lockdown. And there was a dude over there, Travis Clark. He won the Jack, and he's a good dude. He's good people. I just asked him, hey, do you mind? Barbecue is the most generous with their time and feedback and recipes and everything. So I just asked him if I could try his brisket because one of the people that I know from Snake River Farms in Ella, she swears by his brisket. And she knows a lot about brisket. She sells brisket. That's what they do. So I tried his and just picked one little, he didn't give me jack, no info. He just said, there's a slice of brisket. But there was one little thing that I tasted in it that I wanted to try in my own barbecue. And, I tried it this weekend. It turned out really good. I was really happy with it. So that'll be the new go for comps, like one little tweak. And I think that's what it is. It's just a bit of a journey. Too many guys fall into the trap of saying, oh, but it come third last time, which should come third every time. There's so much variability in barbecuing and judging, and there's luck at play. And, I know the ABA would probably disagree with me, but if I hand in before you and after you, it's going to make a difference to my score, right? If I go before the Smoking Meathouse and hit that table, and then I go after the Smoking Meathouse, you're going to have two different effects because no matter what the ABA say is when you try barbecue, it gives you new perspective. And the proof for that for me is trying like Smokeface Grillers barbecuing. I tried theirs up at the Long Room and it really opened my eyes as to what was possible with texture. And so for me, the last year has been a bit of a journey in terms of texture because I tasted theirs. If I hadn't tasted theirs, I'd still be cooking the same crap. So it's just, I don't think that can be over. I don't think you can overstate the importance of evolving as you go.
One of the biggest lessons I learned was off Caleb at a Hamilton comp, the second one, and he said, I can give you my injections, my rubs, everything, and I'll cook it different to how you cook it. And it's just, he said, as soon as I started focusing on how I was cooking instead of, all the other bits and pieces, he said his, results started to get better. And that was before he got, just before he got crowned. So, that's an interesting one too. So, before sort of changing all the rubs and sauces and all that, just concentrate on the texture and try and change the texture and how much changing the texture changes how you taste all those other factors as well.
100%. I remember Big Mo Caisson's first class up there in Auckland before Meatstock. He said, it's a texture contest. I'll never forget that tip that he gave us. It's a texture contest. So for all those guys out there who are struggling away, if your scores are all over the place, then you need to go look at texture. And as I said, and as we both agree with the one of the big things that it impacts is the texture. I remember. Let's talk openly about one injection because I'm sure every person has used it or will use it. Is a Butcher Barbecue pork injection. For me, has one of the biggest impacts on the texture of pork that I've seen. Like you can inject two different injections, and Butcher Barbecue seems to just break down the. I don't know what it does, but it makes it softer. It makes the pork softer, makes it more tender. And it's an injection.
Yeah, it depends on the different ingredients in it, obviously. But I'm just starting to muck around with injection times. We'd usually inject everything the night before, and it would sort of get a good 10 to 12 hour soak. So I mean, Meatstock this year we sort of tried a few things when we first got there. So we gave a lot of proteins shorter soak time with the injections and that. So that made a massive difference to texture as well too. So
one of the things that we learned at Big Boys Toys is we injected our chicken the night before. Sorry, Brendan, I've lost your video.
I was just getting a call through, sorry.
So we injected the night before our chicken, or brined it, and turned out like chicken strami. It was real jelly-like, and I think we come second to last with it. And, and that's what we deserve, to be honest. And, so I kind of, so there's some bitter pills, like, I don't know. I think all the guys that are chasing the big points, we're all worked hard off. Only my chicken had to come 10th. We would have won, or whatever. But definitely learnt the hard way with chicken on that one. Just really totally messed up the cook. So you've got a lot to learn. There's no recipe. There's no right and wrong. It's just something you got to play with.
Exactly. I mean, I spent about 6 months just going through different soak times for chicken, and intensity of flavour, and the end result of that. So I mean, we still don't get it right. So it's
Now, I can hear a lot of guys at home saying, "Oh, the judges, they always choose the same people. It's so rigged."
No, I've got no issue with judges.
When you put as much work into barbecuing as Brendan has, you'll find yourself in the top of the table more often than you'll find yourself at the bottom of the table.
No, I've got no issue with the judges. It's definitely a cook thing.
Sorry, I'm sitting on a beanbag for those at home, so I keep having to adjust. I'll tell you what, the judging in New Zealand is the most consistent we've ever had it, and probably the most consistent I've seen of anywhere. And the evidence I have of that is that I know you and Trev cook a very similar profile. So if you guys both nailed your cook, you would expect to get a similar result. And where'd you come, Meatstock?
Yeah, true.
First and second.
1 and 2. And I think
you got two people who cook consistently the same, meaning the same profile. They both had a good cook, and they come first and second. I mean, that tells you that, and it wouldn't be any different if you had to come 12 and 13th. The fact that you came one after the other tells you that the judging is extremely consistent.
And we use the exact same ribs, Wichita ribs, and we've both got fifth equal. Same injection, same rub, very similar sauce. So we've got fifth equal. So there you go. So the rib came out of the same box. So it's all about how you cook it.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess the point I'm trying to make, and maybe you could let us know in the comments, is the judging is not to be blamed anymore. Now, I'm going to put QMU to one side of that, because I believe those QMU guys, they like their barbecue a certain way up there. They're a long way from a city centre, and they have their own profile. I find that the QMU, at least I've cooked at QMU now 4 times, and always found them to be a little bit. They have their own nuance, I guess is what I'm saying. So you could do first at every comp in the country and go to QMU and come 15th. I just feel like they have their own regional profile over there. Too much smoking, too much smelling rubber instead of smoke.
Yeah, I don't know. I've got no issue with the judges at QMU. They're all good peoples.
Hey, I'm not. Don't put me out to be. I'm not trying to give anyone a slight over there in QMU. No, it's good. So, what's the plans for this year? Obviously, everything's up in the air. But what have you got in your what's the plans coming up for you?
We've just. I organise I was going to be organising a couple of comps this year. Mm-hmm. The West Shore Barbecue Battle is always a good one that Jack Daniels presents. West Shore Beach and Barbecue Battle. And the Kingsford Invitational has had to be cancelled, unfortunately. But we've actually merged the two of them, and we're going to have New Zealand's richest barbecue competition at Napier.
You better be careful making claims, because we've got Barbecue Mania at the end of this year, and
Well,
not
yeah,
much to be outdone.
we've got 15 grand up. So
I got 15,100 actually for Barbecue Mania now confirmed. Just
we won't
confirmed
go
right
15,200, but we'll always try and go one better than you, Jared.
now.
So that's going to be exciting. We've got SCA on the Saturday.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I'm glad to see a little bit more
steak.
SCA happening in New Zealand, right?
Yeah, I mean, steak's it's been a bit of a passion for us over the last couple of years. So we've got two golden tickets up for grabs. Got a fabulous sponsor in Ebony coming on board to supply those steaks. And then on the Sunday, we have got Bid Food Hawke's Bay supplying all the meat, chicken thighs, pork butts,
Lovely.
ribs.
Yeah, cool.
And we've got First Light Beef supplying the briskets. And also New Zealand's richest brisket prize, $1,000 cash.
Okay, now Brisket King. Now who we've got? Dazza won the first one, right?
Yep. And
then who won
the second one?
Fuck you. That's right. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool.
So yeah.
Now those are the First Light briskets raised right there in Napier, aren't they?
Yep. Hawke's Bay. Yep.
Oh, they're in Hawke's Bay. They're raised, but are they butchered in Napier, or where are they butchered?
I'm not too sure whether I think some are butchered up there. I think they might be doing some at Progressive Meats in Hastings. I'm not too sure. It just depends on availability at the time, obviously. So
cool.
But we'll get a good 5-6 kilo brisket out of it. And I mean, the good thing about the comp is everybody's on the same level. So you haven't got somebody turning up with a $300 brisket or
who does that
$100. Well, or everyone's got the same cut of meat. So everyone's getting Wichita ribs, First Light brisket, the chicken and that, everything from Bid Food Hawke's Bay there in First Light. So
now, is it all booked up for that comp, or how does one get into that one? Obviously, being the winners of Barbecue Mania, we have a guaranteed place, but where does like for the average person, how do they get
it's pretty much open slather.
So first and best dressed, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, we're going to see how many entries we can get. We've got plenty of room sort of out the back there, so if we can get 40 plus teams there, that would be really good. We had 34 last year, which is really good. We'll still have the live bands happening. We'll still have the craft beer festival, obviously with Jack Daniels for sale there too. We've got a barbecue vendor, one of our local barbecue vendors, Black Betty. We're going to have demos here too, so hopefully we'll have Barbecue Jesus here doing some demos.
We can always ask him.
Yeah,
he's pretty good at those demos.
Yeah, and we'll see how we've got a couple of Aussie teams that might be coming over depending on the travel bans and that. So
now, can you get some decent ones? I mean, the ones last year, can we get some? No, I'm just joking. It was good to have those boys over from Smoking Hot and Saucy.
Yeah, no, Dion was good.
Dion always
this year too. So
great.
And Trev as well too. So yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, I mean, where can we find out more information about that comp and follow it? Is it the West Shore page or?
Oh yeah, if you just follow if you just look up West Shore Barbecue Battle, it'll be somewhere there on Facebook, or just the competitors page and the NZ BBQ Alliance page.
I'm a bit of a stinge, guys, on the competitors page. We only allow competitors to go in there because otherwise you end up talking about how long do I cook pulled pork for. So it's not what it's designed for, but there is a New Zealand Pitmasters competitors page. Once you've done your first comp or you're enrolled and logged in to do a comp, then you can join that group. But if you're not an active competitor, we pretty much remove you from the group. And it's just where we talk about promoters behind their backs mainly. No, it's not. It's where we just coordinate comps and figure out rules and, we just clarify things pertaining to comps. We don't share any recipes or anything in there. So join that group, join the main New Zealand Barbecue Pitmasters, which is now called the New Zealand Barbecue Alliance. Should know the secrets in the hat there. And then there's regional pages. Napier, is it Napier or Napier Pitmasters?
Hawke's Bay Barbecue Pitmasters. Yep, for sure.
Yep. Join that one. We've got a Waikato page, so it sounds like you've got a lot of things on the boil. It's anyone's guess as to how the year will turn out with this whole COVID-19 lockdown happening as we speak.
Yep, September's looking pretty good though. So I mean, if we're, I think it'll slowly phase itself out. So hopefully we get some barbecue comps in before the end of the year.
Yeah, cool, man. I'm itching. We just did the Great COVID Cook-Off, so that was a lot of fun, and it sort of brought alive the desire to compete. No, not that it went anywhere, but it just reminded me how much I love cooking. Competitive barbecue, testing myself against the best in the country, and a lot of fun. And so, guys, get amongst it. It's a whole lot of fun, isn't it?
Yeah, Derek did a great job with that one. It was it was fantastic. Yeah, it was good. It was just good to have something to think of during the week. All week you sort of think about brisket. The week before you're just thinking about pork ribs. So just trying something different in that. So no, it was good. Good exercise.
Cool. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I've got a piece of sirloin hanging out on my porch underneath a Weber, so I'm going to go check on that. Wish you well, Brendan. We'll catch up with you at the next one, and hope everyone enjoyed listening to this interview. Give us a like and a thumbs up and ring the bell and all the rest of it. And if you want to get onto Facebook, the Smoking Meathouse is Brendan's team name. Give them a follow. Pick yourself up some of that nice merch. And thanks for having us on. Thanks for coming on. And we could have probably talked all day, but like I said, I've got this bit of meat cooking, so we're going to wrap it up there. And we wish you well for the rest of the season.
Yeah, and to you too. Cheers.
All right, mate. Peace out.
Thank you.